Well, this pandemic has cast a light on a fast-growing problem in Europe, among other places, food poverty. Even before the pandemic hit, tens of millions of Europeans face the daily struggle of affording to buy meat, fish, or vegetables needed for a healthy meal. Healthy food is expensive. COVID has exacerbated the hardship and placed increasing importance on the role of food banks. But on a continent that prides itself on providing social welfare, a rich continent, food banks are under strain, leaving these largely voluntary groups to look for a way forward. Jacques Vandenschrik is the president of the European Food Banks Federation, and he joins me today via Skype from Belgium. Talk to us about the numbers. How many people Europe-wide are now turning to food banks because the pandemic has placed economic strain on them and their families?
Good afternoon, Hala. Today, I think the food banks are providing food assistance to more or less 13 million people in Europe. Obviously, there are more than that who are actually in food insecurity, but we are not the only one to provide food aid, and not everyone is actually getting it either, which is a pity, obviously.
And one of the statistics I read, oh, sorry to jump in, there was a bit of a delay, but you could confirm this, 925%, a 925% surge in demand for food assistance at the start of the pandemic in Europe. That is absolutely huge.
Now, I think, I don't know where the number is coming from, but I think as an average, the increase of food demand is 30% in Europe. We have actually met that. I must say that the food banks in Europe and elsewhere in the world have demonstrated their ability to react quite extraordinarily to the demands and to the emergencies, such as those that have been generated by the COVID pandemic. So there has been a huge challenge for us, but we have, I think, demonstrated that we are a good partner in this specific field.
These are some of the figures that have been reported in the press and by journalists, and perhaps they are region-specific or city-specific in some areas that were hardest hit. Who are the people newly affected? I mean, if you've observed Europe-wide a 30% increase, who are the people who now need food assistance and who didn't before?
Mainly those who have been affected by COVID, either not so much those who have had the infection themselves, but whom the business has actually been disrupted by the pandemic. And it's always the same situation where you have people who are on the verge of falling into poverty. If you diminish somehow their income, they will actually fall into poverty. So it's mainly a population that is on the verge of being deprived, but who can, in normal situation, can make ends meet. But if you take a little bit away from them, even if they still have unemployment benefit, but this is not the same thing as a salary, then they will fall into poverty. And obviously, we are there to assist.
What countries are most affected and why across Europe?
Well, I think the COVID situation has affected, as everybody knows, mainly the very large countries, but also the smaller ones. On the eastern part of Europe, the impact is even greater because the baseline is different, because the level of food insecurity was already high in those countries, as opposed to the western part of Europe.
All right. Thank you very much. Jacques Vandenschrik is the European Food Banks Federation head, joining us live from Belgium. Obviously, people who hear these and listen and watch these interviews all want to know how to help. I guess your recommendation would be to go to I don't know, your local food bank and ask how you can help? What can ordinary people do?
Well, ordinary people can either provide help in terms of volunteering. Most of the work done by the food banks are done by volunteers, and they can do that. Obviously, we need also financial support in order to sustain the logistic costs that we are faced with, like cold rooms and refrigerated trucks and things of that nature. So anything that is available will help and will be welcome. But the most important thing is that what we have, I believe, experienced in this period, in this very difficult period of the pandemic, is that human solidarity, interhuman relationship is of most important. And that's where food aid is so important, because food aid does given as a gift to a who is in despair. It doesn't come alone as a food parcel. It is also the human contact, the human warmth that will accompany the food. And that is as important as the food.
Absolutely. Knowing that people care is so important. Jacques Vandenschrik, thank you very much. Tribute